So, welcome back. Um, this time, I wanted to talk about saunas, and I wanted to give you a few tips that we learned along the way. So, as you might remember, one of the first projects that we had after moving in fact, a week after moving in, was to build our sauna. And it basically took no longer than a week to complete that project. But we had started planning it far in advance of moving in. So we started planning this already maybe 6 months before. And that's why I wanted to share some of the tips that we learned when we asked for quotes from different companies. So stay tuned towards the end of the video, and I'll sort of recap everything that we've learned. Now, mostly when people talk about saunas, they tend to focus on sort of the health benefits, that it's great for recovery, for example, for blood circulation, for sleep, all sorts of things like that. And while those are important factors for me, um, the primary reason why I wanted to have a sauna in the first place was because it's just sort of part of my cultural habits. Um, as a Finn, I've been going to the sauna probably every week since I was a baby. So I can't imagine living without a sauna. In Finland, every single house has a sauna. Here, it's also quite common here in Switzerland. So that was sort of the primary driver for us to want to get a sauna. And like I said, we went to various different companies for quotes and then finally decided on one of the vendors that we really felt knew what they were talking about. Now, granted, cost was obviously a big factor, but for me, they also had to really understand what they were talking about, that it's not just sort of a package sauna that they install, but I wanted them to understand the different components and elements as well in detail. Now, the model that we ended up going for with the company we got this final quote from was a custom made glass front model that was made out of Nordic spruce, and it has two stable benches and then one that can be moved in or out, which is sort of the step that you use to get onto the upper levels. And we ended up not getting the Harvia cylindrical model, but the more traditional Giwas, so sauna heater, because they recommended that we get this model. I had a feeling that this cylindrical model is sort of a trend. I did not think that it's needed for such a small sauna. Now, if you have a bigger space, obviously you have to factor this in, and maybe you need a more powerful heater. For our sauna, however, we could do with a smaller one with less rocks. And the other reason was that we wanted it to be surrounded by this wood so that it would be safe for my daughter to come there. She's 1.5, but she already does come to the sauna with us. That's normal in Finland. So this works very well for us. Now, the company installed all of the ventilation and also most of the electrical installation had already been prepared prior to us moving in, because that space had been originally built for a sauna. It was just that the previous owners did not build it prior to us moving in. So thankfully, that was quite seamless. In terms of lighting, we did not install lighting inside the sauna. And I think it really depends on what type of space you are looking to put your sauna in. For ours specifically, it's facing two glass doors. So there's a lot of natural light, and we don't really tend to use it in the evening after dark. Usually we use it around lunchtime or uh, maximum at like 4 p.m. So there's enough natural light, and it's actually nicer with the natural light. Um, but that is obviously something you would have to factor in. I mean, some people want to put their sauna in the basement, or maybe you don't have a well lit area that you would like to install your sauna in. So that's just something to bear in mind because it would add to your costs. And I guess just to wrap up, I would say that my ultimate tips are that, like with anything, you should start preparing far ahead of time just so that you have time to go to enough different companies to get the most competitive quote and to compare their expertise. It's better to speak with them rather than just um, conversing by email, for example, because you don't really grasp like how much they understand about this topic, right? Until you have a conversation. Obviously, if they have a showroom, I would also go to the showroom in person. Um, and then my second tip would be to not skimp on the sauna heater, but also not to go for trends, right? Do your research, factor in the space that, the sauna, how big it is, and make your decision based on that. You can talk to the companies, about what you had in mind and what they'd recommend. But I think those two tips will already get you very far. So I hope you've enjoyed my sauna tour. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.